Hello, my name is Chris Lannert. I am the Planning and Landscape Architectural Consultant that was engaged by the Utilization Committee to inform you of this wonderful project that we envisioned for the redevelopment of the Settlers Hill area. The first slide of the PowerPoint, which I will be discussing in depth, ends up showing you who these committee members are. The value of this committee structure is that Karen McConaughey, chairman of the Kane County Board, chaired the committee, and then all of the other stakeholders within the community were members of this committee, specifically Geneva and Batavia, as well as county board members, both from the Forest Preserve as well as from the county board itself, and then also the staff people, Monica Myers and Tim Harbaugh, were invaluable to us in terms of getting base information and moving forward on this project. This was not a standalone assignment. This assignment was prepared after researching all of the material that we had the benefit of having from previous endeavors. The DLK design in 2007 talked about what could be done with the jail site, gave us lots of background and structure. In order to start our study, we first ended up looking at the area. This is an aerial photograph that shows the aerial perspective of the site. As shown and outlined in yellow, the site goes from Illinois Route 25 on the left-hand side or west side of the property. It goes north up to the Union Pacific Railroad. It goes down along Kirk Road, which is on the right-hand side of the slide, which would be the east side, and then it's all north of Fabyan Parkway. As you can see on the slide, the jail site is still in existence, but if you've driven by the site lately, you know that that has been removed at this juncture. Once we've identified where the site's located, we wanted to make sure that we had an understanding of the goals of this study. The goals of this study, as shown on the slide, were to increase and create user-based activities, to protect and enhance environmental attributes. We wanted to confirm all of our ideas through an economic evaluation and or a filter. Those were the assignments as related to the subject. Along with that, we wanted to indulge in a evaluation of those user-based activities. We know that this area has historically been known as a recreation area. The golf course has existed for over 30 years. You certainly have the Cougar Stadium and other issues that I know you've all enjoyed as residents of the county. We also wanted to make sure that we maximized those existing assets and returned them back to the use of the Kane County taxpayers. And then blending those existing uses, we wanted to propose new uses which would fulfill the recreational needs of the entire county. From an environmental attribute, we wanted to again use Kane County's strong history in terms of comprehensive planning. The new 2040 comprehensive plan focuses on healthy living. All of the activities proposed for this reutilization of the Settlers Hill site incorporate healthy living through exercise and through rehabilitation, and I'll explain those items as we go through this presentation. Sustainability has been a long-standing goal of Kane County. It certainly will be a major component of the site design as we move from these conceptual stages through the public hearing process and into the final approved plan and or final design on those activities which will be selected. Part of that site design component will certainly be the environmental studies in the specific areas where uses will be performed. We also, as a goal of the study, will want to improve and enhance the water quality of the area, again, a major feature of the 2040 plan. Along with those sustainable assets, we also wanted to make sure that we have an economic evaluation. So we will test all of the proposed uses through an economic filter. We want to provide for the adjacent land development, and basically that's the land along Fabyan Parkway on the on the southeast corner. I have a picture that will show that later on in the presentation. And then we also want to make sure that any uses that we would propose would qualify for grant funding, and also we want to make sure that the uses will be fee driven so that there can be a payback as it relates to the uses on the site. The existing assets, which is what we started with, some of them you saw on the aerial photo. This next series of slides will identify them for you on the site. I'm sure you're all familiar with the Cougar Stadium. That's in the upper right-hand corner, which would be northeast. We've got parking for at least 2,500 cars. Again, a very strong attribute as it relates to driving users to the site. We've already got the parking that they will need. We've got the Stryker soccer building. We've got the ice arena. The Forest Reserve offices within that same building. The layout of these particular slides is that I'm speaking of where they are located. The number is being pointed on the location on the plan where those exist. The Settlers Hill Golf Course, as I mentioned, is in the middle and between the two landforms. We have a wonderful natural wooded area along Route 25. We've got the soccer fields, which are in the open area adjacent to Fabyan Parkway, south of those woodlands. We've got the private property along Fabyan Parkway, which I just spoke of. We've got the old jail site, which has now been cleared. And we also have the Stone Homestead, which is the building just north of Fabyan Parkway, south of the jail site. And then we have the existing drainage, which currently exists around the site. The next features will be the proposed uses. These proposed uses are those which we have conceptualized at this time. They will all be subject to the environmental overlay, which I spoke of earlier, and also the economic overlay in order to legitimate any one of these proposals. These next series of slides will identify what those uses are, and then the slides after that will articulate what concept is part of each of those. Probably the most obvious and the facility, the use that was most identified was a scenic observatory. We will put that on top of the landform. This landform is 167 feet above grade, and so we will have a great view of the Fox Valley up to Elgin and down to Aurora from this vantage point. The first tee and the golf expansion. This plan has been carefully integrated with the Kane County Forest Reserve and their plans to, number one, build a new hole as well as a driving range as part of their plans. In addition to that, they are working with the First Tee organization to bring them on site as a user. We will have winter recreation as part of this plan, a feature that has been underutilized at this time. We are suggesting mountain bike trails. These will all be located on the existing landform. We'll detail that in a subsequent slide. We have chosen a music venue which will be along the east side of the property adjacent to the parking in Kirk Road. We'll have an event access area that will be the cash register for all of the events which we're trying to program and identify on site. We have recreational activities and sports fitness trails. Our last slide will show how all of these trails wind through an integral part of the development, and that is really where the most residents will be able to participate in terms of this redevelopment of this very significant site. We have track and field trails which are superimposed on top of the site. We're talking with the United States Track and Field Association to implement those facilities. We have the potential for a resort and private development along Fabyan Parkway. The resort development would be a decision the county board would make on the old jail site if that comes to pass, and then the private development would occur based upon some of the other implementation portions of this plan. The historic settlement is the last figure 10 shown adjacent to Fabyan Parkway. We will incorporate that into future discussions. We need an internal roadway in order to tie all of these features together and keep them internal to the site rather than use the substantial and well-functioning roadway network on the periphery of the site. This internal roadway will give us access and promote the development of the other private sites that are north of Fabyan Parkway that don't currently have access. The last slide shows the proposed water quality improvement, again consistent with the 2040 plan as well as with Kane County's issues. The conceptual features I spoke of will now be subject to these next series of slides, and what we're trying to do is detail what we have envisioned so far for these activities. Certainly, as we move forward, we'll have to decide which one of these activities makes sense. The overlook and observatory will have a celestial clock. We could have some telescopes to view up and down the river. We will use elements of the existing buildings on site for viewfinders. We'll use the natural boulders who are on site as a way to have seating around this location in a very natural context. The plan in the lower left-hand corner of the slide identifies where the scenic overlook will be. That will be a feature of all of the next slides I will talk about. The Settlers Hill Golf Course, as I mentioned, in the center of the facility. The first tee program is actively being discussed with members of the Kane County Forest Preserve. They will be developing a youth program there. That is one of the fastest growing programs within the golf industry. They have a very active program going in Aurora right now, and we're thinking about expanding that onto the Settlers Hill site. Basically, it teaches children how to understand the game, play the game. It's a learning activity for them. Winter recreation will be another key. Again, the location map on the lower right-hand corner shows where this is located. It will be on the north-facing slope of the completed landfill. We envision tobogganing and sledding. We will have an ice skating pond off of the landform in an area that does not have refuge below it. The cross-country ski trails will be part of that, and they will be incorporated with the track and field also. Mountain biking, as I spoke of before, will be an element for the site. The location map shows with the 3 stars that the mountain biking will be solely limited, or is envisioned to be limited at this time, to those portions identified on the landform. The pictures show that this is a very active recreation sport. There's a very large contingency within the county that is very actively involved in mountain biking. The music venues, as I spoke of, is envisioned at this time to be behind the Strikers Soccer Club. It will be somewhat limited in scope. It will be adjacent to the parking, and will use portions of the landform for viewing. As part of that event staging area, we will be locating drop-off areas for buses. We'll certainly have vending areas. We'll have ticket booths. This will really be the cash register for the project as we start to develop these uses. Another feature will be the private development opportunities. The red lines surrounding these bulk land use areas show the extent of private land which is available for development. The area surrounding the old jail site on the right-hand side of the plan is owned by the Forest Preserve in the county. The development on the right-hand side, north of Fabyan and east of Kirk, privately owned at this time. These opportunities will be market driven. We believe that they will promote a private tax base. We think there's an excellent opportunity to link them to the overall rehabilitation and sports fitness of the user fees and ideas that we have incorporated onto the landform. Another feature which is spoken of will be the historic settlement. This is a photograph of that stone building with a leader that points to where it's located north of Fabyan Parkway. I see this as a educational benefit. I see this as a space holder for the land in front of what might or might not become a resort hotel based upon future county board decisions. I think it ends up enhancing any activity that would be part of the resort. I also think that it's a great place for locating other Kane County historic buildings while we're waiting for these other uses to develop over time. The water quality features that we spoke of, we look at incorporating combined stormwater features. We'll be doing best management practices. We certainly will be looking at all kinds of environmental sustainability features, improved wetland and habitat. This will end up being an education center as well as a water quality improvement mechanism. The internal circulation roadway What this does is it gives us the opportunity to disperse traffic from the Cougar Stadium, which presently exists. Gives us the opportunity to get to and distribute traffic as part of the golf course enhancement. It would link any resort activity on the far left-hand side of the slide, which would be to the east, with those access points along Kirk Road to the west. And most importantly, it would provide internal access for those private properties which front on Fabyan but do not have access to Fabyan. The recreational activities which we're showing on the site, these are the features that we can incorporate immediately onto the site. Running trails, walking trails, these will be designated for all age groups. They will be handicapped accessible. We'll have obstacle courses. We think that along with the private development, they could be athletic training and or rehabilitation. The cross-country track and field will be located on top of the mound as shown in this plan. The dotted area shows the 1, 3, 5, and K-mile races. And again, we're also showing that the ski trails will also be used for the track and field. The benefit of this will be you'll be able to look at the cross-country ski and cross-country running from a vantage point, which will allow you to see the whole race from one vantage point. The way these are incorporated into the final plan, these are the multi-use trails. Basically, these trails are around the outside of the study area, and then they come into the area to bring you into areas which will have further development. The cross-country ski trail are now outlined in purple. They reflect the black dots you just saw previously. Those will be approximately 10 foot wide. The mountain bike only trails will be 3 feet wide, and as you can see, they're only on the landform. The golf cart paths, which will be part of the existing golf course as well as the expansion, are shown. They're approximately 6 foot wide. We will have sidewalks along the edges of the planned roadways internal to the site. And then we also have shown the existing woodland trails, which are within the mature woodland that exists along Route 25. Those trails are being defined presently by the Forest Preserve, and we will specifically locate those trails on the final plan after we have gone through the public hearing process. This is a quick summary of the plan to date. I would mention that it is conceptual at this time. These plans will be taken through the public hearing process, and based upon that public hearing process, revisions will be made, and then the plan will be resubmitted to the County Forest Reserve and County Board for their final action prior to moving forward.